Hey everybody, it's me, Edward Jones, back with a new video, podcast on politics. I recently watched the Joe Rogan Experience with Donald Trump. I was actually waiting for I was waiting for over an hour for my food at Sonic, and the only thing that really kept me from losing my cool was the conversation going on the podcast. And so I was watching it, while I was waiting, and they covered a wide variety of topics. Obviously they talk about the election. They talk about Trump's plan, his plans for his plan to get back into office. They talk about his the attacks he's received, how the media has manipulated a lot of things that gets talked about by him to fit in a narrative. And it was an interesting conversation. It was almost 3 hours long. Whereas I think it's wild when people say that Trump is he's old, he's in cognitive decline. I don't think he'd be in cognitive. I don't think that's the case. You see him talk for over 2 hours, and holding a good conversation. And Trump does something called weaving, something called a weave, where and I do this. I just never really had a name for it, but you're trying to answer a question by telling a story first, and when you weave, the point of the story is you're weaving right back into the original point as to what you're trying to address. So they talk about that a lot during the podcast, and it was great. It was great. It was great. It was very entertaining, very informative. I think he did a good job in talking about his policies, especially the one that I really loved. The one I really loved uh, was the discussion of getting rid of the income tax. I think that'll be phenomenal to get rid of the income tax. It has been nothing but it's been nothing but a headache for many people, especially those in lower those who bring in lower income. You want to try to bring in as much money as you can, because whether you're buying, selling, saving, so you're gonna get taxed somewhat. You're getting taxed one way or the other, especially with inflation. So I think no tax on tips was a great idea. Not taxing overtime, and now you hit us with getting rid of the income tax. I definitely want it. I want to see it. But I wanted to do this video to talk about how the podcast, in its current form, is taking over. It's basically taking over the news, because the news has been today's news, with very few exceptions, has become so I can't really say it's become slanted, because there was always this joke I heard when I was a kid. What's black, white, red all over? And it's a newspaper. I didn't know what the red meant, but as I got older, I realized the red meant, like it meant leftist. And I think that's something that has been that has been present in the media for a very, very long time. Even was it the Walter Duranty Award? He was this journalist. I think this journalist for the New York Times. He went over to the Soviet Union, and he lied about the things that he saw, because he had an agenda, because he had a narrative. He had an agenda to push. There were a lot of socialist influences in the United States. So you had that aspect in the media. And then there was the trashing of Joseph McCarthy, about his look about his hunt, being on the hunt for communists, in Hollywood, and also in the federal government. No, that was a great thing. I think it should have kept going. It should have went through academia, because there's a heavy influence of leftists in academia, as we know, as well as we're made well aware in the media. So the media has been compromised. It's been compromised for a very long time. Um, You'd be very hard pressed to say that you can't find some type of bias in the media when you look at the news, whether you're reading in print media, or you're reading, watching it on a screen, looking on your phone. There's this heavy left leaning bias. And so what I'm very happy to see is that things are balancing out. Now you have podcasts where they're covering political topics. They're covering philosophical topics, and they can actually you really don't, they seem to be pretty neutral. They're not really pushing one way or the other. And I think what that allows is for genuine conversations. It allows for people to actually truly share their thoughts and truly speak freely, provided that the platform is not going to not going to boot them off. But I think it's a great thing, and I think it's severely needed competition in the world of media, because mainstream media has gone by so long with basically with its thumb on the scale, thinking that it's not going to have any repercussions. But now they have competition. Now there are podcasts that can compete against mainstream media, where they can actually have guests on. We actually have political candidates on appearing on podcasts, and I think it's excellent. I don't think it means that that those who host the podcasts are compromised themselves. Because I think what makes them very popular is that they actually able to have genuine conversations. And those genuine conversations are what draw in people. It's what drawing people from all over the political spectrum. And even if there is a bias, which there can be a bias, it can be is made well aware of what the bias is. Even like the guys I get my news from on YouTube, they have a more right wing or center right bias, and I'm fine with that. That doesn't mean I won't watch anything that has that has more of a left wing bias. Every now and then I'll watch that. But I like to be but I have no problem being made fully aware of what the bias is, and I think that's important. And I think with podcasts, it just allows for people to, despite there being a bias, they can talk freely, and they can get the truth out a lot faster than having to rely on this old relic media that we still that's still trying to hold on for dear life. I mean, and it's even got things like I just recently heard that Jeff Bezos, I think he owns it was the L.A. Times or the. He's not basically the paper that he owns is not going to endorse a candidate, which is something that it's always done, and it's been losing subscribers, and he's even going so far as to want to bring on conservative journalists or conservative editors, conservative writers. He wants a wider perspective of things, because he can see the writing on the wall. He sees that podcasts are whooping the legacy media's ass, and I think he also sees that there is a swing towards the right. It's happening, whether people in media want to admit it or not. Things are moving more and more towards the right. Slow, and it used to be slow, but now I think now with the aid of podcasts, with the aid of free speech, things are moving in that direction. And I think it's a wonderful thing. So please, tell me what you guys think. Do you follow any podcasts? Are you aware of any biases? Any current podcasts? Did you watch the Joe Rogan Experience with Donald Trump? Please share your thoughts. Leave a comment in the comment section. Like, share, and subscribe. Want to help out with the channel? Go to my homepage on YouTube. Look for the PayPal link and the Cash App link. All donation amounts are appreciated. Any gripes, complaints, send me a PM. I'll see if I can do to address them. But that's my video. Podcast and politics. I'm Edward Jones. You guys take care. Be safe. Stay strapped. And God bless.